matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave when you, like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. Follow me.
Thank you so much for downloading today's episode of the Red Pill Investor. My name is John Ashley, a pseudonym of a realtor here in the great state of Arizona, here to help you with your real estate sales skills. Why? Well, just sort of my way to pay it forward for all the people who've given me the tips, the tricks, the things to say to get the contract signed when I needed it the most. Their only request of me? Well, just simply pay it forward. And this is my opportunity to you, the listener. So thank you so much for downloading today's episode, and I'll do my very best to go ahead and give you the best info I can. And today, what I'd like to share with you in episode number 402 is the story behind the Red Pill Investor. The story behind the Red Pill Investor. Now, I don't know if this is of any value to any of you, but sometimes I do get a lot of folks who will ask me about the Red Pill Investor and John Ashley and where all that kind of came up with and what was this all about. And whenever they're asking me that question, I'm always happy to answer. So to tell you a little bit about the birth of the Red Pill Investor, I have to kind of go back about 2 years. And at that time, I was a regular realtor investor, just doing the same things everybody else was, buying, selling, listing properties, things like that. And then one day, my mom had called me and told me that she had lung cancer. Now, my mom didn't smoke, and so obviously that was a pretty big shock to me. And, I don't know about you, but for me, that was really hard for me to focus after that. When something like that happens to some people, I know I've got a good friend of mine, he had lost a couple children and he was able to focus and work through it. But for me, I couldn't, I couldn't. It seemed like my world came apart. And so for me, it was really hard for me to help a lot of people, customers and whatnot, and I had a team that was handling it for me. And so I decided to take some time off to help my mom and be with her and deal with this. And at about the same time that I had been receiving this horrible news, I had been making a lot of videos for my company on YouTube at Sell More Homes Now. And so, it was a lot different, obviously, because those videos were more for listing agents and things like that. And they took a lot of time, and I just couldn't really devote the time to educate people and teach them about sales and things like that like I used to do, and I really enjoyed it. But, at the same time, I also noticed Facebook groups that I was in had, kept having the same types of questions and the same types of problems that realtors like myself always face. I mean, you've probably heard them. Things like the seller wants too much. How do I write this or that on the contract? How do I determine price? What do I say in this particular type of situation? So I knew the answers because I spent, at that point, I guess 17 years in the business, right? And I had spent about $98,000 in one-on-one coaching fees with the Mike Ferry organization. And so I was really kind of shocked to learn that the most common, the easiest answer to questions were just going unanswered by the gurus that people had paid thousands of dollars to for information. It just shocked me. I couldn't believe it. And, so I started answering the questions. And that's simply all it was I started answering questions one by one on Facebook, helping people because I had the time. I was working with my mom. I had a team that was running my deals for me. And so I had some time. I was only working a few days a week. And the more I answered individual questions, the more I noticed a commonality in all of them. There was this singular thread that they all shared. Everybody, almost to a person, acted, walked, and talked, said that they were investors. That was the biggest thing that they were all doing, right? I mean, at one point, I was on the phone with one investor. I remember her. She was kind of new from a different Facebook group. And it became clear to me how to kind of explain this real easy to solve singular problem. I struck upon the idea that, she might be kind of familiar with, the movie The Matrix. I mean, a lot of people were familiar with the movie, and I'm a big fan of it. It's got a lot of metaphorical, concepts that you can apply and think about. And, I said, look, I've got an idea that I'd like to share with you that I think will help solve your problem. And if I can, would that help you? And she said, sure, no problem. And like Morpheus, from the movie, right? I promised her one thing, and one thing only, that it would be the truth as I saw it. The real reason why she wasn't getting deals, the real lie, the there is no spoon, the concepts that I believe would help her in her business. And then I proceeded, with her permission, to outline why, as a buyer, you have no labels on you. People don't expect you to know anything. You can be as smart or as dumb as you want to be. They have no expectations. And more importantly, you have more power, in a transaction. Because a buyer's name is on the contract, not an investor's name. I began to share with her, through the use of, transactional funding. She had millions of dollars at her disposal daily, regardless of her credit, regardless of her history, regardless of her past. It didn't make a difference. If you could find a deal, there was money available for you. I dispelled her myth about needing credit or money to buy a home by explaining the concept of there is no spoon. By using references throughout the movie The Matrix, I explained to her a concrete plan to take her business forward. And at the end of that conversation, she remarked to me that she was glad that she had taken the red pill. And we both kind of laughed, and that was that, right? Soon, somebody else came and asked about the red pill. And then they said, they had heard about it from this other person, and could they hear about it? And then another. And then another. And yet another person came. Eventually, I formed a Facebook group just to have alternative ideas for people so they could feel free to express themselves and their questions and their doubts and not feel like they were going to be judged. Feel where they could express themselves and speak in freedom and not be, degraded on. And then my mom died. And at the time, I was devastated. I'm not going to lie. It did a number on me. And I poured all of my grief and my pain into building the podcast. I did a podcast practically every single day for months on end. I received about $9,000 from my mom's estate. I put it all on the podcast. As they say, you always bet on black. Win, lose, or draw, I was going to pay it forward. You see, throughout my career, my mom had helped me. And she had said that she would help me as long as she could. There were many lean years where I was a bouncer in a nightclub, I was a paper boy, I was a pizza delivery boy. I took up all kinds of odd jobs to make it work, right? I'm sure you have. And whenever I was a little short or whatever, she would help me. And she said that she would do that as long as she could. On one condition, that I pay it forward. So using the $9,000 that I received from her, I started this podcast. Which brings up John Ashley. John is a pseudonym that I use to help people focus on what I think is important. You see, the podcast is designed to answer all the questions that you provide. It's timely because it's about you. Everything done in our podcast, our blog, our membership site, it's all done because of the questions that you ask. So it's John's job to bring it to your attention to help you. It's not about me. It's about us and our journey. I'll leave it to you, the audience member, to determine if I've done a good job. Until then, you have a powerful sales day.